Well, Bennett Kessler filed this following report. School superintendents in Bishop and Mammoth and the Mammoth Police Chief quickly responded to the terrible shootings of young children in the Sandy Hook School in Newtown, Connecticut. They offer reassurances on diligent security measures and on vigilance for troubled youth in our towns. On Saturday, Mammoth School Superintendent Rich Baccia and Police Chief Dan Watson issued a joint news release asking, as we all have, what pushed the individual to the edge to, quote, take such violent action on innocent people, end quote. Bishop School Superintendent Barry Simpson wrote a letter that will go out to all parents. He says how impossible it is to express the sadness and explain how it could have happened. Simpson said, quote, our best hope is to use this horrific event as a strong reminder that our mission as educators begins and ends with student safety, end quote. Simpson said he and the staff are committed to the, quote, development, review, and practice of our emergency response procedures and protocols, end quote. For Bishop Schools, Simpson says staff reworked and updated the school emergency response plans in the past year and carried out a very detailed emergency drill in October at each school site. He said the recent tragedy has reminded about our, quote, lockdown procedures and additional emergency drills that will be planned and carried out in the coming months, end quote. Now in Mammoth Lakes, Superintendent Baccia and Chief Watson said the events at Sandy Hook, quote, tell us that we all must remain vigilant for the signs of any troubled youth that live in our community. Baccia says teachers, administrators, and school staff pride themselves on building strong working relationships with the students. They said when there are signs of distress in a student's life, quote, we have a number of steps that we can take to provide additional support to that student and their family, end quote. Now, Superintendent Simpson said Bishop schools have procedures to deal with troubled kids. He said threat assessments are done and passed on to mental health and law enforcement. They also talked to parents. Simpson said there is a student study team of parents, teachers, administrators, and counselors that address obvious problems and may refer to mental health. Now, Simpson also revealed that on January 15th, a meeting will take place that includes law enforcement, school personnel, fire, and mental health to discuss county-wide emergency response procedures and preparedness. Simpson said, quote, we know that any effort to do harm to our schools and communities can be reduced by the decisive actions of alert and prepared individuals, end quote. In Mammoth Lakes, officials said principals, police, and mental health services will, quote, continue to discuss the events that occurred and be prepared to offer counseling services to our students and their families. Mammoth law enforcement and schools will also revisit their school security and response plans. You can go to our website, sierrawave.net, to read the letters from officials in both Bishop and Mammoth. Well, we're getting the following information from a press release from the Great Basin Air Pollution Control District. And that press release states, today, in another setback for the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, the Kern County Superior Court ruled that LADWP must pay more than $1 million in fees that it deliberately withheld related to air pollution control measures for the dried Owens Lake bed. LADWP's water diversions from the Owens Valley caused the air pollution at Owens Lake. Press release goes on to state that in December 2011 and May of 2012, the Great Basin Unified Air Pollution Control District ordered LADWP to pay fees associated with the development of dust control measures and legal costs to enforce Owens Lake air pollution control requirements. Great Basin is incurring these legal expenses in its defense against the city's continued efforts to avoid constructing the control measures required to meet air quality standards. LADWP adopted a budget of over $2.5 million to pay 2 law firms to represent it in Owens Lake matters. Now, the 2 law firms are in addition to a number of city attorneys working on these issues. In 1997, the California Air Resources Board held that the Great Basin was also entitled to retain lawyers to respond to the city's challenges, and that those legal costs were properly assessed to the city as part of the development of the air pollution control measures. Now, the duty of the city to pay those fees prior to appealing district orders was established established in 1997 by court orders against the city of Los Angeles. Now, said Ted Shady, Great Basin Air Pollution Control District officer, quote, "Today's decision is important to protect the environment and public health. Hopefully it sends a message to the leaders in the city of Los Angeles that its Department of Water and Power must comply with the law and its past agreements, that they must obey regulatory orders, and most importantly, that they must finish controlling the air pollution caused by their water diversions from the Eastern Sierra. We encourage Los Angeles's leadership to begin serious discussions with Great Basin as to how it will meet its legal obligations and protect the air quality and public health of the residents of the Owens Valley," end quote. Now, the press release goes on to state that in addition to refusing to pay fees, the LADWP is opposing existing federal, state, and local air pollution control laws that require additional air pollution controls at Owens Lake. LADWP's drawing of Owens Lake created the largest single source of particulate matter air pollution in the country. Particulate air emissions are a danger to human health and the environment. The particulates lodge deep in the lungs, causing respiratory injuries and additional risk to children and the elderly. Over the past year, LADWP's water diversions have created dust storms that exceeded the federal standard on 25 separate days, resulting in the issuance of local health alerts. Press release goes on to state that last month, the State Air Board issued its decision that carefully considered and rejected all of LADWP's challenges to the air pollution measures. Now, today, the Kern County Judge, Sidney P. Chapin, ordered the LADWP to immediately pay the fees of over $1.1 million. Now, for its failure to comply with the court orders and pay the fees, the city now faces a trial to determine a civil penalty of up to $30,000 per day for each day of its violation. The penalties associated with this willful violation of court orders could exceed $6 million. And again, that information from a Great Basin Unified Air Pollution Control District press release. Well, Bennett Kessler filed this story. The now famous advertising line about cell service, "Can you hear me now?" has never had any meaning in the community of Crowley Lake because there has never been any cell service there. Now, that could change any day now. A company called Distant Towers did go through Mono County Planning and managed to get a lease from the LADWP to build a cell tower and base next to Crowley. Now, Robert McLaughlin of that company said he has nothing to do with the cell service itself. Verizon will handle that part. He said the tower does have electricity and an antenna and should be on the air any day. Now, Heidi Flato of Verizon Public Relations told Sierra Wave Media that cell phone service for Crowley will go on the air as soon as, quote, "the landline provider installs the backhaul connection this week," end quote. She said that while this should happen soon, there is no specific date right now. Now, Flato said the cell sites need to connect to Verizon's mobile switching center in order to complete voice and data transfer. She said Verizon Wireless worked with various landline providers to handle the interconnection. Flato said there have been some delays on the landline side, and she invited Sierra Wave Media to check back before January 1st for an update. Well, we got some good news. The Bishop Community Christmas Dinner will take place again this year, but it's going to be at a different location. The 2012 Bishop Community Christmas Dinner, as you can see by this great poster, formerly held at the Bishop Senior Center, still going to offer the free full-course holiday dinner. And again, this is set for Christmas Day from 12:30 until 3 p.m. And this is now going to be at the Bishop United Methodist Church at 205 North Fowler Street. They're going to have live music, prizes, caroling. Everyone is welcome. And again, as you can see on the poster, the dessert potluck, you are asked to bring a favorite dessert to share. You can get more information on this. Contact Laura Smith at 760-872-4034 or Roberta Cummings at 760-873-3058. I think that's great. The Bishop Community Christmas Dinner being held once again this year. We'll be back with more news.